Hope's true paternity exposed. Eric Forrester is her father, sending shockwaves through the bold and the beautiful in one of the most earth-shattering revelations in the bold and the beautiful's long and tangled history. A simple medical test turns into a storyline earthquake that rocks the very foundation of the Logan and Forrester families. What begins as a routine procedure escalates into a full-blown scandal when lab results reveal that Hope Logan is not, in fact, the biological daughter of Deacon Sharp. Instead, she is the child of Eric Forrester, a truth buried for decades and now erupting to the surface with catastrophic consequences for everyone involved. This isn't just a twist, it's a complete rewriting of identity, legacy, and loyalty. And no one walks away unchanged. The chaos begins in the most mundane of ways. Hope is undergoing a medical evaluation, a requirement tied to Liam's condition and her own stress levels following his refusal of cancer treatment. Doctors request a comprehensive genetic background to rule out possible hereditary complications, and in the process, something doesn't add up. The markers don't match Deacon's DNA. Initially, the results are dismissed as a lab error, a technical glitch, a minor mix-up. But Hope, shaken by the thought, agrees to another test. This time, the lab triple-checks the data. The answer is irrefutable. Deacon Sharp is not her biological father. Brooke Logan is blindsided when the news reaches her. For years, she carried the story that Hope was conceived during her ill-advised and controversial liaison with Deacon, who at the time was married to her daughter Bridget. The scandal nearly tore the Logan family apart. Brooke lived with the shame. Deacon suffered the fallout. And Hope, forever labeled the product of betrayal, spent her life believing in a version of the truth that shaped every aspect of her identity. But now, with this revelation, everything changes. Hope isn't Deacon's daughter. The man who has tried to rebuild his relationship with her, who's sought redemption through their connection, suddenly doesn't share her blood. Brooke, confronted with the truth, can't hide anymore. With tears in her eyes and panic in her voice, she confesses the secret she swore to take to her grave. Eric Forrester is Hope's father. The room explodes with disbelief. Ridge Forrester, already grappling with Liam's impending death, is pushed to his emotional brink. The man he considers a second father, Eric, had a child with Brooke, his on-and-off-again wife, and the woman he's tried to build a life with for decades. This isn't just betrayal. This is a fracture of trust so deep it threatens to collapse everything Ridge thought he understood about his family, his marriage, and his legacy. Eric himself is stunned. At first, he refuses to believe it. He recalls the night in question, a vulnerable moment, a lapse in judgment, a brief reconnection with Brooke in a time of loneliness and confusion. He never knew she conceived. Brooke never told him. She let the world believe it was Deacon's child, thinking that scandal was less damaging than the alternative, a child that would deepen the Forrester-Logan entanglement to irreversible depths. Hope, caught in the center, watches her life unravel. For her entire adult life, she's tried to rise above the chaos of her mother's romantic history. She fought to be her own person, to build her own reputation, to parent her children with the integrity she always felt her own upbringing lacked. Now she's not just the daughter of Brooke and Deacon. She's the hidden child of Brooke and Eric. A Logan, a Forrester, but also a secret one carefully, deliberately hidden. The revelation hits everyone differently. Deacon, for all his faults, is devastated. He tried. He believed. He wanted so desperately to be a father. His relationship with Hope, fragile and newly rebuilt, teeters on collapse. He doesn't blame her, but he blames Brooke. For lying. For using him. For never trusting him with the truth. The betrayal cuts deep. and Deacon, wounded and humiliated, may not recover from it. Meanwhile, Ridge spirals. The man who has battled Eric for power, for women, for the soul of Forrester Creations now faces a new, more personal battle, the knowledge that his wife had Eric's child and never told him. Ridge's rage isn't loud. It's quiet, controlled, dangerous. He shuts down emotionally, retreats from Brooke, and begins to question every moment they've shared. If she could lie about this, what else has she buried? The fallout extends to Steffi and Thomas. Steffi, already shouldering the burden of Liam's illness, feels the walls closing in. Thomas, always at war with his place in the family, now sees Hope, his former love, the mother of his child, elevated to a status that once belonged to him. Hope is now not just a Logan raised by Forresters. She is a Forrester by blood. And that changes the dynamic entirely. The Forrester family meetings turn hostile. Eric wants to accept Hope. Ridge resists. Brooke tries to mediate, but the damage is done. Old wounds reopen. Stephanie Forrester's ghost looms over every conversation, her disapproval of Brooke now vindicated by the ultimate secret affair. Rick, Thorne, and Bridget are pulled into the orbit of the scandal. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone feels betrayed. And through it all, Hope has to rebuild herself. She doesn't want Eric's money. She doesn't want a place in the corporate hierarchy. She wants clarity. She wants peace. But peace is hard to find when the story of your life has been rewritten in front of you. She tries to reconnect with Eric cautiously, uncertainly. He reaches out, eager but unsure. Their conversations are laced with awkwardness, hope, and pain. They both want a connection. But decades of lies don't evaporate overnight. Brooke is left isolated. Her attempt to protect everyone by hiding the truth has done the opposite. She's alienated Ridge. She's hurt Hope. She's betrayed Eric. And even though she thought she was doing the right thing at the time, she now faces the brutal consequences of years of deception. She pleads for forgiveness. But no one's ready to give it. As word of Hope's true paternity spreads, the fashion world also reacts. Hope for the future becomes a brand caught in the crosshairs of public scrutiny. Paparazzi swarm. Reporters ask invasive questions. Stockholders demand answers. And the scandal becomes more than personal, it becomes public. Even Bill Spencer, always looking for a crack in the Forrester armor, takes notice. The revelation gives him new leverage, new ways to exploit fractures, and he's not shy about using them. Katie watches nervously, knowing Bill's opportunism could deepen the rift already bleeding out across both families. The show marches forward with tension turned to 11. Ridge moves out. Eric takes a DNA test for verification. Hope attends therapy. Deacon begins drinking again. Brooke spirals. And the question everyone keeps asking, will Hope forgive her mother? Will Ridge forgive Eric? Will Eric claim Hope publicly? Remains unanswered. But one truth is clear. Nothing will ever be the same. The bloodlines of the bold and the beautiful have been permanently altered. Hope Logan is Hope Forrester. And with that truth comes a legacy of power, scandal, betrayal, and inheritance, one she never asked for, but now must carry. Stay tuned. The storm has just begun. Hope Forrester. Fallout, power struggles, and the battle for identity in the wake of a shocking paternity reveal the revelation that Hope Logan is, in truth, the biological daughter of Eric Forrester, does not fade with time. If anything, the fallout only deepens as the shockwave ripples outward, cracking the foundations of multiple families and reshaping alliances inside the bold and the beautiful. What began as a secret confession in a hospital room quickly morphs into a public, corporate, and emotional reckoning unlike anything the Forresters or Logans have seen before. Eric's confirmation that he is Hope's biological father is backed by DNA evidence and medical files, leaving no room for doubt. The moment he goes public with it, standing beside Hope at a press conference, calling her "my daughter," it sets off a firestorm that tears through every corner of their lives. The Forrester Creations boardroom, already a place of constant tension, becomes ground zero for a bitter, escalating battle over legacy, control, and loyalty. Hope, reluctant to embrace the name and power that now belong to her by blood, finds herself pressured on all sides. Eric wants her involved at the executive level. Ridge does not. Brooke encourages Hope to step into her destiny. Steffi sees it as a hostile takeover in disguise. And Thomas watches everything unfold with growing resentment. Steffi, furious over the sudden recentering of attention and authority around Hope, starts maneuvering quietly behind the scenes to protect her position. She makes a bold move to tighten her grip on the company, using her influence to lock in support from other board members. She argues that Hope, while family by blood, lacks the experience, the commitment, and the years of dedication to Forrester Creations. The boardroom battle lines are drawn, Team Steffi versus Team Hope, with Eric caught in the middle. Ridge, despite trying to remain neutral, can't hide his discomfort. Seeing Hope now as his sister, not just his ex-daughter-in-law or his wife's daughter, unsettles him in ways he struggles to admit. He starts pulling away from Brooke, refusing to accept that she kept such a consequential truth hidden for decades. Their already fragile relationship starts to disintegrate, with Ridge moving out permanently. He channels his frustration into work, into aligning with Steffi, and into cold silences that scream louder than arguments ever could. Meanwhile, Brooke is a shadow of herself. She faces backlash not just from Ridge, but from her other children as well. Bridget, in particular, is horrified to learn about the affair between Brooke and her former father-in-law and the years of lies that followed. The family dinner tables are no longer safe spaces. Holidays, birthdays, traditions, they fracture. Brooke's tearful apologies fall on ears too tired of forgiveness. Deacon, though not biologically related, remains close to Hope, though their bond is now strained and awkward. He tries to be there for her, but a bitterness lurks in his heart. He mourns the loss of his identity as Hope's father, even as he tries to convince himself that biology doesn't change love. He falls off the wagon more than once. Sheila, sensing an opportunity, slithers back into his life at his lowest point, offering comfort laced with manipulation. And then there's Thomas. Thomas, once obsessed with Hope, once reformed for her sake, now sees everything he fought for slipping through his fingers. Watching her ascend to a power seat in Forrester Creations infuriates him. Not because she didn't earn it, but because of what it symbolizes. She belongs. He's now just another employee, and the woman he shares a son with is being welcomed as a Forrester heir, while he's left battling old demons alone. Thomas begins to spiral. He starts pushing boundaries again, inching back toward the unstable behaviors that once made him dangerous. Hope, meanwhile, is caught in the eye of the storm. She didn't ask for this title. She didn't want this war. But she can't ignore the truth. The company her father helped build is now, by all accounts, her birthright too. And while she tries to use her platform to bring compassion and innovation, she's constantly undermined by Steffi's boardroom maneuvers, by Ridge's passive hostility, by public perception still fixated on her being the scandal child. Paparazzi begin hounding her. Gossip columns revisit every messy moment of her life. Headlines scream, Eric's secret daughter takes over. She becomes the face of both a dynasty and a disgrace. Through it all, Eric tries to be her anchor. He welcomes her into his home, gives her an office at the top floor of Forrester, and tries to bridge the widening gap between her and the rest of the family. But even Eric cannot undo decades of division with a few heartfelt speeches. His efforts to unite his children, Thorn, Ridge, Rick, and now Hope, backfire as each sibling questions their place in the family hierarchy. Old resentments are reignited. Rick returns from Paris demanding answers. Thorn makes calls from Europe, furious that no one consulted him. The house that Eric built is being torn down, not by outsiders, but by blood. Hope becomes more determined. She throws herself into work, into charity efforts, into expanding Hope for the future as a standalone global brand. She wants to define her own legacy, not just inherit one. She hires new designers, creates a sustainability initiative, and starts speaking publicly about empowerment and transparency. The public warms to her. Sales soar. Investors get excited. And Steffi gets nervous. What starts as a simmering conflict becomes a scorched earth campaign. Steffi leaks stories to the press painting Hope as unstable, as unqualified, as riding the coattails of a scandal. Hope, in turn, exposes Steffi's financial mismanagement of the company's European branch. Eric tries to shut it down, but the war has gone too far. A full shareholder vote is called. One of them will remain. The other will step aside. At the same time, Douglas begins to ask questions. The boy who once saw Hope as the steady, unshakable force in his life now sees her struggling. He hears whispers. He reads headlines. And Thomas, in his worst moments, feeds him the wrong narrative. Hope tries to shield Douglas, but the damage is done. Their bond strains. Co-parenting becomes a battlefield. And then the unthinkable happens. Eric collapses during a family meeting. Stress, heart issues, emotional exhaustion, it all takes its toll. He's hospitalized, and the doctors give a grim outlook. The family gathers once more, not for a celebration or announcement, but for another potential goodbye. Around Eric's hospital bed, the Forresters and Logans are forced to face each other. Ridge cries for the first time in weeks. Brooke takes his hand. Steffi apologizes to Hope. Thomas, silent and pale, stares at the monitors. And Hope leans over her father and whispers, "You changed everything. But I'm going to protect what you built. I promise." Eric survives for now. But the family leaves the hospital changed. The battle may not be over, but the lines are blurred. Grief, fear, and mortality humble them, if only for a moment. And Hope, now fully Hope Forrester, emerges from the shadows of scandal and steps fully into her future. This isn't the ending. This is the rebirth of a dynasty. Stay tuned. Because legacies don't die. They evolve. And Hope is just getting started.